Grand Rising to the Moors. Today is May the 3rd, 1440, and it's a Sunday, and we are absolutely excited about all that's going on in our nation. Oh boy. So let's get started. So hopefully you all have been watching what's been happening on all sides, really, but in particular with the Service Corporation and those moves that they've been making. It's just amazing that, just one moment, let me get that out of here. It's just amazing, all the changes that have happened since we've been really honing in on our documents and on our paperwork. So we're now preparing to move into universal commerce in the manner that we should as a nation, in unity. And so we've been focusing on the documents that are already out there and looking at those documents carefully, because it's by the documents that are out there that we were enslaved, presumably. But in reality, it's because we did not rebut what was out there. And there's a lot of stuff out there. And the main sources of our issues have been rebutted. That's why you're seeing the changes that you're seeing. So we now know that the fake corporations have been using documents such as corporate charters, trusts, corporate trusts, papal bulls, capitalized treaties, and codes and statutes to escheat our estate. Okay, so we are originating the rebuttals to each and all documents that they have placed on the record, because we know, and they know, that an unrebutted affidavit stands as law. Okay, just one moment. Okay. So where universal commerce is concerned, because the Moors have been asking, how do we move into commerce? How do we get into commerce? And there's absolutely, the door is wide open for us to do that. So where universal commerce is concerned, the corporations did not create any of the documents that they used in their attempt to steal our estate. They didn't create them. They looked at what we did and what was already on the ancient record, and they copied it, and they hypothecated it, and they capitalized it. So we talk about capitalization quite often, because capitalization is the issue. Okay, that is how they were able to do all that they do. So we are reversing that curse and flipping the scriptum back to what it should be. To hypothecate a document is to misspell it. Okay, and that's for the new Moors who may not necessarily know right offhand what all the new terms are. Okay, to capitalize it is to add capital letters where there were none, and the attempt then to sell the bogus documents, such as U.S. Treasury bonds, etc. So why did they change the spells and spelling and capitalize the words? They did that so that they could control the meanings and the definitions, and so that they could use the documents as they please, thereby taking control of any commercial exchanges that the documents governed or attempted to govern. By rewriting the documents, just a moment. Let me see where that is. because there's a little bit of, I'm going to go ahead and mute just a few people just to be sure that we can get everything out. And please stay muted until we're ready to open the floor. Okay, by rewriting the documents that govern the estate and representing those documents to the whole world as true documents, they appeared to be us, and they appeared to take over the whole earth, okay? Seemingly in our names. In other words, calling themselves Americans and, you know, all of that. Now, we know that the colonizers are not Americans. They're not. No matter who they try and convince of that, they're foreign. We are the original indigenous Americans, okay? So I say seemingly appeared to take over the world because they could never use our real appellations, our sovereign-born appellations in all lowercase letters. So they taught us to consent to subject status in their education camps by teaching us to hypothecate and capitalize our own names. And ignorance of the law is no excuse. They had to have our consent. So they started at the hospital with mother on the delivery table with a debtor's birth certificate. And that's why we say mother has the starring responsibility in the return of the estate back to the heirs. Now, this does not in any way diminish our men who are so powerful that they are actually relieved to hear that we know our responsibility now. Our responsibility starts the moment we conceive, okay? And now they know that they don't have to spend another generation in prison because of our ignorance of the law, okay? So the hypothecators actually misspelled and redefined our ancient writings. They just looked at them and said, okay, let's just spell that this way instead of that way, and then we'll assign our own meaning to it. And they will think that it means one thing because they're used to seeing it that way, but we will assign our own meaning, and when we put a capital letter on it, that's what it stands for, okay? So they misspelled and redefined our ancient writings in their own way because you can't really change an ancient writing. That's why it's ancient, because it's always going to be in its natural state, okay? And then they called it English with a capital E, which sounds like the language that we speak, but not with a capital E, and not in all capital letters. We don't speak that English, because that's the fake one, okay? It sounds like the language for the angels, but it is not. It is corporate English and not ancient English. And when we do the etymology and look up the definition of English, even in the older dictionaries, they put one of them with a capital E. But even in that one, they had to tell a little bit of truth, and they mentioned the word angles. And then they even said something about a language that represents a foreign language. And it's foreign to them. They're the foreigners, though. We're not foreign. This is our land, okay? So all they did was represent, attempted to represent. And that's been the problem, okay? So the dictionaries reference what they call Old English. And they also talk about Middle English. Old English is really ancient English, which is ours. And that's in all lowercase letters, okay? Now, some have been made to believe that English is new, just because when they capitalized it and hypothecated it, it seemed like it was new and that our ancient languages were dead, okay? But that was just them taking ancient English and calling it their own, okay, and by capitalizing it and misspelling and changing the meaning, okay. So Even though some have been made to believe that English is new, but the fact that the dictionaries regularly reference Middle English and Old English tells us that there is a huge difference both in spelling and definition. By the way, the word definition is really definition. We are the original Phoenicians, and as you know, the word phonics and phone come from that. That's words and sounds. They come from us. We are the originators of words and sounds. We're the ones who coined all the terms, etc. Okay, and then we got away from that. To define a word is to not use our Phoenician or phonetic meanings and spellings, although the word sounds a lot like define, D-E-P-H-I-N-E, okay? D-E-P-H-I-N-E is us, okay? But D-E-F-I-N-E is them. They want to, D means not. Do not put the Phoenician meanings and the Phoenician spellings. And that is why writing is so important, because they did that all the way across the board. That's how Unam Sanctum came into being. That's how all the commerce came into being. That's how Sedicate V came into being. Okay, all they did was copy some ancient documents and then hypothecate them. Okay, the words sound the same, but they're spelled differently and have different meanings. That's why writing is so important. Our affidavits correct the record and provide proper lawful rebuttal to the fraudulent misspellings, hypothecation, and capitalism. So what is our continued responsibility? Our responsibility is to take the time to properly rebut their fraud and return our estate by originating new affidavits using our own Phoenician spellings and ancient English to competently proclaim the law for our land. So we're taking back our language, our ancient language, okay? So what does this have to do with universal commerce backed by gold and silver? It has everything to do with it, and in fact, no commerce can commence or continue without proper charters, treaties, trusts, etc. on the public record. And we've begun that process by decapitalizing the treaty and placing it on the public record. And I want to give a shout out to Empress Tazarna for her contribution to that treaty. Like she decapitalized it beautifully. Also, there are some other of the Moors, and forgive me if I forget your appellation, who have done that as well. All Moors do need to practice decapitalizing documents so that we all know that when we see a document with capital letters, that that's not for us. That all we have to do is decapitalize it and then we can use it. Okay? So, again, commerce has everything to do with our ability to take those charters and trusts and make them our own, take them back, because all they did was copy what we did. And then they put us in their education camp and made us think that that was the way we're supposed to write. But that's not really the way we're supposed to write, okay? We should have never been in their education camp. We should have had our own erudite Moorish schools, etc. Okay, so again, it has everything to do with, and in fact, no commerce can continue without proper charters, trusts, treaties, etc. on the public record done by the heirs in our ancient English, so that commerce is done according to our sovereign overstanding and not some denationalized corporate understanding, because that's where we get into a little bit of a couple of issues, is when we try and do things in their system using their documents. Okay, so we can fix that. It's an easy fix once all hands are on deck. Okay, and we have many people that are, many of the Moors that are decapitalizing documents, and they're just picking up and decapitalizing them as they see them, which is exactly what the scribes and viziers in the Moorish Empire have done historically for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. That is why we are all justices and viziers and consuls. It's our job to fix that. And this brings us to the fields of interest of each and every Moor. Okay, so commercially, each one of us has something that we want to do where we use gold and silver backed lawful coinage to do the exchanges so that we can take care of our families, and not families, but our kin. Okay, I want to make sure I'm using the right terms too. So let's have, I'm going to unmute just briefly, and if we could have just a couple of Moors to take about 30 seconds to just name a field of commerce that you want to go in, okay, or that you're already working in. Just a moment. Wherever there's the most feedback, I'm gonna mute those so that we can hear. Okay. All right. So just a couple of more. What area of commerce, what field of commerce do you either want to work in or you're currently working in?
Real estate.
Islam. Real estate.
I'm currently working in natural health care.
In what is that, Empress?
Natural health care.
Natural health care. Beautiful, beautiful. We need that. We need real estate. We need natural health care.
Graphic
Are there
design.
any others? Graphic design.
Music and art.
Music and the arts. Islam. We need that.
Construction. Islam. I'm in construction.
Construction. Beautiful. We definitely need that. Okay. Go ahead. For example, I like candles and flowers and scented things and things that make the domicile smell nice. You know, so that's another field of commerce as well. So there are many fields of commerce. Some are in conveyance commerce, where they call them cars and automobiles. We call them conveyances, etc. Real estate is a huge one. Okay, so
we need food. We need food.
Yes,
make sure that our
absolutely. We do have Moors in our nation who operate grocery stores, small package stores, convenience stores, etc., or who are wholesale grocers. Okay, we have plenty of those. So with the areas of interest, no matter what it is, we must govern that area by sovereign, universal, natural, divine, lawful affidavits. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, this is how we do it. Because the current system, you can't do commerce in that system. That system is not even standing any longer. Okay, that system is finished. If Donald Trump and them can't do commerce, nobody can, because they knew all the tricks and ins and outs and fraud of that system. So that system is finished. So now we are developing, and it's not even developing, we're just uncovering our ancient systems that have lasted for trillions and trillions and trillions of years. Our systems, they all know about the ancient systems that have outlived and outlasted all others. We are implementing that. And that's the beauty of this, is we're all right on the start stage of the implementation of our ancient systems, and it's a beautiful thing to see. So no matter what it is, this is how we do it. We research, okay, which corporate entities are attempting to regulate that area. So, for example, if you're talking about food, we know that the USDA is, and the Grocers Association, in all capital letters, are the two that are attempting to govern those areas. And since we're not under their jurisdiction, how do we deal with them? We pull their corporate charters, because we've already told them that their corporate charters are going to be the treaty and the Constitution. We told them that already, and they're aware of that. And that's why no one can do anything until we give them the documents that we're discussing today. Okay? Pull up their corporate charters and their mission statements. And if you know of any code or statutes that they're dealing with, and it doesn't have to be a super laborious process to do this, pull that up and then begin rewriting them in ancient English on Moorish government letterhead, which is recognized by all earthwide already. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to take what's already out there and use our ancient English on Moorish government letterhead, okay? So you might be asking if you have to learn ancient English. The answer is you already know ancient English. Each and every one of you already knows ancient English. I'm going to prove that. And also, we all know, the hypothecators, they know it too, okay? And the way you prove that we all know it is this. The hypothecators changed our ancient English that was on our documents to corporate English with a capital E. And we know how they did that. They capitalized words that should not have been capitalized. They misspelled and took out letters and put in letters that sound just like it, but that's not the ancient word for it. So what is ancient English? Ancient English is every living word that corporate English is not. But it sounds like corporate English, but it's not corporate English. It's our own divine spelling and our own divine Phoenician. Not definition, but Phoenician. For example, I don't know how many of you have read Unam Sanctum, but Unam Sanctum is a papal bull that has had everyone thinking that those people, the Pope and the Vatican, the corporate Pope and the corporate Vatican, not the real one, because we know that we're the real Vatican and we're the real original indigenous sovereign popes within all lowercase letters. But I looked at the Unam Sanctum that our Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey talks about often. And I reversed Unam Sanctum recently by studying the document word for word. It's not that long. And what I did was I looked up the word in an unabridged older dictionary. And as you know, most of the time we use Black's Law 4th edition, 3rd edition, 2nd edition, 1st edition, or you can get an older unabridged dictionary. And I looked up the words in an unabridged older dictionary, and when you look in the older dictionaries, there's the word that's bolded, and then they'll have the Latin of that word, or they'll have the Old English of that word, or they'll have some variation thereof right after the word. Okay, they'll have the word, then the part of speech, and in brackets they'll have the Latin versions of that word. So I went through and changed the spellings of the word in Unam Sanctum so that it says what we want it to say and not what they want it to say. Unam Sanctum has a statement in it that says that everyone is under the Roman pontiff. And Roman has a capital R, and it's R-O-M-A-N. That's how they spelled it, with a capital R. Roman pontiff. And pontiff is, they spelled it P-O-N-T-I-F-F, okay? But when you add a capital R to Roman, then that's a corporate capitalized word. That's not the real Rome. We're the real Romans. We're the real Phoenicians. We're the original indigenous Greeks and all of that. We all know that. There were no others. There's just corporations who pretend to be us. We're the real Americans. Okay? So when I redid Unam Sanctum, I spelled Romans a different way, and I put it in all lowercase letters. Now it means what I want it to mean. And now we are the Roman pontiff that everyone is under. If you know anything about the Pope, and you do, all the policy enforcers are under the Pope, were under the Pope. All of the, and again, all the militaries were under the Pope, okay? To include the U.S. military and the paramilitary, which is what policy enforcers are. So when we rewrote it and published Unam Sanctum, we changed that. And now they're all under the Moors and not under the Pope of Rome, who actually stepped down a little while back because they know the Moors are coming. We're here, actually, already. Been here, haven't gone anywhere, been here for centuries. And so, millennia, actually. And so when we redid Unam Sanctum and rewrote it, re-finished it, we made sure that we looked up each word and we tweaked the spelling just a little bit. And when you change the spelling, whoever the author is of that new spelling or that old ancient spelling, that it means what they say it means. Even the Acts of State says that when a nation is standing, all of the laws that are out there are according to their overstanding of it. And it says understanding, but we say overstanding because that's another word that we coined, the Moors, long time ago. Overstand instead of understand. It's not in any of their dictionaries, but it's going to be in our dictionary. Overstand. And we have the ability to do that. Change the words according to what we want it to say, and then use it regularly. So we were presumed to be under Unam Sanctum until we properly rebutted it, and so that is what we did. Unam Sanctum is what the corporate popes used to command the military, the policy enforcers, the fake judges, the fake attorneys, etc. Okay? So I looked up each word and paid close attention to the capitalization, because if the word is capitalized in the dictionary, it has a foreign papal meaning which has been applied to it. However, they usually, you can still look at it, and they'll usually include just one word that is close to true. It won't be all the way precise, but it'll be pretty close. And so I went through and pulled those words out and changed the spelling just a little bit, added a letter or took away a letter or added an E on the end, which is what our ancestors did. When you look back at the Unam Sanctum that I placed out on the public record and the ancient writings that our ancestors did, they look almost identical. I mean almost identical, okay? And for those of you who have seen that Unam Sanctum that I put out there, go ahead and copy it so you can be the lowercase Roman Pope, Roman Pontiff in your territory. Copy it, sign it, put it out on the public record, and then you tell the policy enforcers, because the policy enforcers have been under us anyway. We just weren't speaking to them. And now we give them commands. We don't do requests and we don't go to their fake courts and all of that. We are the court. And if you read Unam Sanctum, listen, if you read Unam Sanctum, it specifically states in there, and I'm paraphrasing, that God is not supposed to be judged by someone else. God does the judging, and that's you all. And when you put God in lowercase letters, that's the Moors. It's not that papal thing, monster, creature that they've been telling us about and having us looking up in the sky praying to that thing, and instead of actually reading and finding out how to get beyond their fake courts and their fake policy enforcers, etc. And anything with a capital letter in it, it's foreign to us. That is foreign. It's like someone putting a different language out there. It's foreign. And we're the ones who can fix and change that. And that's what we're starting to do. And you're going to continue to see, as you find documents out there that are related to your area of commerce. For example, if, let's just say I wanted to go into real estate. So who is it that's pretending to govern that area? It's probably some MLS, probably. They probably have some corporate charter out there or something like that. Now, we're not mad at any of them. In fact, we're glad they're sitting there waiting like sitting ducks for us to come and pull their charter and decapitalize it and then hand it back to them and say, this is what you do. This is how you do business when you're dealing with the Moors. And the more of us that do that type of governing, we're unstoppable because our affidavits stand as law and they cannot be rebutted. There are no affidavits out there more powerful than ours. None. And we know that already. That's why the whole earth has stopped right now. And they make it look like they're continuing just going on, but they're not. They're not. They can't go anywhere, really. Okay. And so by changing the spellings of many of the words, including, for example, the word sovereign. The word sovereign, when we put an E on the end of it, it's still sovereign. It's spelled sovereign. It sounds sovereign. But that's our definition of sovereign. And our definition of sovereign is us, period, and no one else. No such thing as a sovereign citizen, because the Moors have defined sovereign now. We have put the Phoenician magic on it, and it is what it is. And no one can dispute that. That is how you take back the language that was already ours. Okay? Now, whenever I'm decapitalizing and unhypothecating a document, I also pay close attention, again, to the Latin or alternative ways that the word is spelled, which is, again, usually in brackets after the word, okay, in the dictionary, the older dictionary. I also pay close attention to the part of speech, because we tend to focus on noun, which is usually closest to the meaning that we want to convey. We look at verb transitives and adjectives, et cetera, et cetera. The noun is what we really want to pay close attention to, okay, or closest attention to, because we still look at the others as well. And if I cannot find the meaning of a word in the old dictionary, or because there are some words that we want to use that are not even in there, like in capitis diminutio nolo or in capitis nolo. In capitis nolo shouldn't be in their dictionary because they're not sovereign and they can't be outside the capitalist system. But we can. So you're not going to find that, but you'll find something close. The closest that a citizen can come is in capitis diminutio minima. Okay? But we know that in capitis nolo or in capitis diminutio nolo, is our status and standing. Okay, we're the only ones who can be outside of that system. So I also pay close attention to the part of speech. And again, if I can't find the meaning of a word in the old dictionary, or if the meaning I have found is not adequate or precise enough, I change the spelling and assign an adequate, very similar meaning, but it is more precise. It's also allodial, natural, sovereign, divine, and not corporate. Who says we can't do that? That's all they did. It took what we had out there and changed the nature of it by giving it their corporate nature. We're not mad at them because we didn't rebut it. It's our turn. We can fix all of that by simply rebutting competently what's out there. Any word that they use regularly, we probably should change the spelling. Even if you just add an E on the end of it or something, we need to change the spelling. Because when they see that word, they're going to be thinking that we're speaking their language, and we're not. We don't even speak the same. We're not the same species. We're not a species at all. We're God. But we're not even the same in makeup. They speak corporate English. We speak ancient English. Ancient English is the highest language of the angels, or language for, by, and with the angels, and the angles, because we do sacred geometry as well on our words. And that's how we go about changing these corporate charters so that they're ours. And if you want to see Unam Sanctum and how changed it is, you can compare it with the original. Go out on Google and Google the original, which is not signed, by the way, and then look at the one that I put out there and see how different they are. They look like they're reading the same. They look like they say the same thing, but they are so different. It's just it's amazing what we can do when we use our own language. Our language is any word that's not theirs, that's not corporate, that doesn't have capital letters on it. And that's how everyone already knows ancient English. All of you know ancient English because all you have to do is change the corporate one just slightly. For example, the word apostle. Some more talk about we can apostille our own documents, because they talk about that as an international action. Apostilling. Well, we can do that, but look up the definition of apostille and maybe add another P to it. So APP. OSTILLE, or take the E off of the end of it, and that will change the nature of it. And because of our nationality, our bloodline, and our birthright as the Phoenicians, it is absolutely valid. I did this demonstration about 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned it briefly before, but I did the same thing with a document that I showed you all about 2 weeks ago that I gave to a bank. And of course they called me, okay, and they weren't calling me, they were trying to denationalize. But the first thing she said is, well, this is not even in English. And she's right, it's not that English. Not the fake English, because they faked everything. It's the real English. And then I see in the chat where Justice J. Michael says, can't we go back to our original spelling even though they copied them? The ones they copied are not the original. So anything you do besides that is the original, because you're original. Okay? Any other spelling. And we are different tribes and scribes, different, and actually tribes is not really the word that I want to use. We're nations and governments. And of our nations and governments, I can spell sovereign one way and you can spell it a different way. As long as it's not like the way they spell it, we're good. And even if it is the way they spell it, as long as it's in all lowercase letters, we're still good. So, again, we're the Phoenicians. We get to choose, not them. And then we give it to them. We send it by mail to put them on notice. And why in the world would those documents and us be in those foreign courts when they can't even, when they looking at ancient English and saying this is not English? That means they're not competent. They're not. So a couple of the words, and actually when we do things like this also, we control our own story. We control our own. When we control our language and our diction, that's automatically putting us in our own jurisdiction. If you want to invoke jurisdiction properly, change those words a little bit on your document so that they're not looking like the corporate ones. Just change, if you change one word in a sentence and add an E on it, it's going to change the meaning of the whole sentence. So the sentence can look the same, it looks like something they wrote, but one of the words is changed. It's going to change the whole meaning of the whole sentence. This way, we control everything that has to do with us. We control our records, we control our narrative, our history, our own story, and our own sovereign destiny. No, let me tell you, the people that are over in fake Israel over there, the fake one, that language that you hear them speaking, Benjamin Netanyahu, etc., they call it reconstructed Hebrew, and I'm putting that in air quotes. Reconstructed Hebrew means they made it up. And then they just taught other people to speak that. So when they're running around here talking about Hebrew, we're speaking Hebrew and shalom and all of that. Okay, shalom is close to what we used to say. And there's nothing wrong with shalom. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But they made it up. It's reconstructed. And they use reconstructed because they get to define what reconstructed is. But according to them, they've never really heard ancient Hebrew, so they had to make it up, make up their own. Well, all they did was hypothecate some things they did see. That's all they did. So we've given unum sanctum our own meaning, and that is our public rebuttal. Therefore, it changes the nature of everything that unum sanctum, that all of the policy enforcers who were working under unum sanctum policies, when they pulled Moors over, they have a new policy now given by the Moors that they must go by. Those are some of the things that changing a corporate charter will do. When they get their marching orders from you and I, they have no choice, because right now they don't have they didn't have anyone who was actually at the helm of the ship, guiding the ship. We're doing that now. That's why there's so much turmoil. Half the time the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing over there. It's our turn. So some of the words that I changed, and I'll give you some examples of it, and then I'll also type the word in the chat. So one of the words that I changed is W-H-I-C-H, which. Which indicates indecisiveness or options. Well, when we give a command, you don't have an option. It's a command. So I changed the spelling. Sounds the same, totally different word. I changed it to, and I'll put it in the chat, I changed it to W-I-T-C-H-E, which, still which. But when I say which, There's no indecisiveness. It's very precise. It's the original indigenous sovereign precision that leaves no room for guessing and no room for hypothecation at all. At all. Okay? Just a moment. Let me see where that's come from. Okay. So another word that I changed is, just a moment. Let's see. Another word that I changed is invoke. Okay, and I'm going to put that in the chat, and I'll show you how I changed it. The way that they spell it is I-N-V-O-K-E. Well, they gave that word their meaning, but it's really our word. And it's actually two words. The two words that it should be, based on Phoenician definition, is E-N, and it can be E-N or I-N, and then space V-O-C. That's invoke. V-O-C is, it means, it is the root word for vocabulary, vocal cords, etc. So, of course, it means speaking out. That's invoke spelled the way that we spell it, which is makes it two words instead of one, changes the meaning to what it should be. Because when you look that up, it's going to be far more precise than their invoke. Another word that I changed is belief. They smashed those two together and changed the spelling of it, which changed the meaning of it. That's why we don't do feelings and beliefs. What we do, though, and I'll put it in the chat as well, one slight change and the whole meaning changes. We do be space leaf. When you look up the word L-I-E-F, that's an actual word. Usually when you see those compound words smushed together, if you look them up separately, they have a different meaning than the one that they sought to convey. This one we do. This means to be, and leaf means to be willing with full disclosure. To be willing or consenting with full disclosure. It's two words and not one. Now that we can do. So we change that word and separate it and pull it apart. The Phoenicians do that. Or if you wanted to leave it the same but have your own meaning to it, you could spell it by keeping them together but put an E on the end. Now it's still belief, but it's what the sovereign says it means in their lawful affidavit that stands as law. So we can't leave it at B-E-L-I-E-F as the way that they do it. We can't leave it at that. Let's pull it apart, and that gives it one meaning. And the same meaning would be for us to add an E on the end. Or if you wanted to, if you're of a different tribe up in the north and you feel more led to spell it this way, B-E-E-L-I-E-F, then your nation and your government can do that because you're sovereign. We don't have to spell it the same, but we just don't have to spell it the way they did. Because all they did was take what they know about us and hypothecate and capitalize, etc. And even if it's not capitalized, it's hypothecated, so we change it. And I went throughout the whole document, looking things up, pulling things apart, just surgically, precisely, with like laser Phoenician-ness, taking that document apart and then putting it back out there the right way so that it has the meanings that it should have, which is a sovereign, natural, original, indigenous meaning. And you can do the same thing with any corporate charters and trusts, etc. And then put it out there and tell them this is how you're to do business with the Moors. And when they see that, they might say, oh, this is not in English. Well, we don't care what you say. You understand it. You stand under what we write. And it's on you just like it was on us. We thought we had to look, understand what they wrote. And we still didn't understand it because it was full of fraud. It was filled with fraud. Filled with fraud. Another word, and this word, Grand Sheik Tashriq Bey, it's actually a name. He changes this one to what it should be, and it's actually, this is just another example of the same thing. This name right here, P-E-T-E-R, Peter, and it becomes P-T-A-H, Ta. In the Unam Sanctum, it talks about Peter, and that's who the Pope was pretending to be as well. And so I changed it in our Unam Sanctum that everyone is under, all the citizens and all the servants, the public servants. And I changed it to P-T-A-H because that is actually all Moors. All Moors are Ta. All of us, every last one of us. Peter is corporate. Ta is sovereign, allodial, natural, original, and divine. And then I noticed in the chat, Justice Jade Michael put in there, what about of being spelled as UV? I was actually going to get to that. You're absolutely correct. That's what I did. I changed it to UV, which indicates being able to see. The word uvea, U-V-E-A, is the surface of the eye, the posterior surface of the eye. UV rays note that which is beyond a certain range of visibility. Okay, so I changed OF to UV in Unam Sanctum. I could have put it UF. I could have done that. But I thought, okay, I'll just make it because of the research done on UV. I felt that is actually what I want to use right there. So we're going to change it to that, and that's what it means. Okay. And then the word finished is another word that I've been using quite a bit lately because, again, we're the Phoenicians. So I'll put it in the chat. This is the way they spelled it because they were hypothecating it. They spell it F-I-N-I-S-H-E-D. We spell it, it sounds exactly the same, but we spell it P-H-E-O-N-I-S-H-E-D, like the Phoenicians. Finished.
We must internalize the population.
That is how we do it.
By transmitting the effervescence of the Indonesian proximity in order to further
Hold for just a moment. Let me get them out of here. Okay. And that is how we did it. And any word out there that you want to do like that, you can do it. Because what we're doing is the Phoenicians are doing what we've done from ancient times. Okay. In ancient times, we looked at something and we gave it a name. You know how in the Biblios, it talks about how the things were given names. God gave everything a name, and then they named Adam and Eve, et cetera, et cetera. That was just us doing what we do. That was just us in our laboratory doing what we do, doing what we've been doing. Okay? Gene splicing and DNA, you know, splicing and gene therapy and all of that stuff's not new. It's ancient. So we can take any corporate word, change the spell, and if you can, leave the pronunciation intact so that they sound the same, but they're spelled differently. And then you assign an allodial sovereign more precise meaning, and then it means what you say it means. Now, when we do this, the foreigners will most likely say, this is not English. No, it's not corporate capitalist English. It's an ancient English, and foreigners to this land do understand it. They're in fact expecting us to do this. They are expecting us to do it. They want to see us doing our affidavits this way, because that way they know that the Phoenicians are back and are doing what they should be doing, which is writing and governing. There's no entity out there. For example, those who want to go into finance, a lot of times they run into the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. Get their charter, their corporate charter, it's out on the public record. Decapitalize it. Decapitalize it. It's going to take a minute, but it's worth it. Decapitalize it, and then send it to them with a copy of the decapitalized treaty and the decapitalized Unam Sanctum. And you can use the one that I put out there on the record. Just print it off and put it in with your documents. They know what that means. They've been operating off of that because we never rebutted it. We never rebutted it. And now we're doing that. Then you become the SEC. But it's in all lowercase letters. That's what we're supposed to be doing in order to get our land back to what it should be. The colonizers may even say something about you can't spell. And I thought about that, and because you know, even when I posted that up there, I know people are looking at it like this has a bunch of misspelled words. No, it doesn't. That is actually the right spelling. What they've been teaching us is the wrong spelling. That's servant language. That's subject language that they've been teaching us in their... Just a minute.
Gloria Velishkovsky Bay, Texas.
Just a minute.
Territory.
Islam. Grand Rising Empress. Glad you're here. So, and let me tell you, what we're doing right here, right now, with changing everything around, back to what it should be. That's the one thing that they did not want us to pay attention to. They wanted us to pay attention to everything but the things that they've been operating with. Empress, I'm gonna mute you for just a minute because there's a little bit of feedback coming from your line. Empress Gloria.
Okay.
Just a minute. So they do not want us. They wanted to keep us preoccupied with guns and fighting one another and fighting with them. Their subjects, so there's no need to fight with them. Just give them the documents, and that's their command. And then stand on what you give them. No, we don't go to your fake courts. We got our own. And in fact, each and every one of you are the justices in the court, the Moorish National Republic federal government justices, and consuls, and viziers. Every last one of you who are of the bloodline and the birthright are the viziers and justices and consuls of the Moorish American Consular Court and the Moorish National Republic federal government. No one can tell you any different. And when they say you can't spell, if you just remove one apostrophe out of can't, just pull that apostrophe out, it changes the whole meaning of the word can't. When they say you can't spell, can't means a song, or it is a special way of saying something that a particular nation or group, they're the only ones who use that. That's what can't means. And it is the root word for incantation. Incantation is what, they used to say witches did, incantations and spells. Well, yes, we can't spell. That's how we spell. That's an adjective. We can't spell. So they're right. But we just don't put the apostrophe in there because we are the Phoenicians and we know what can't means. Can't means something that you say or do that is specific to your bloodline or your group or your nation or your government that they don't use. And I'm telling you, the possibilities and potential is endless. And when I say endless, I mean endless. In other words, their vocabulary is very limited. It's very limited. Meanwhile, we can change one word 50 different ways, have it still sound the same, but it's not the same because the heirs defined it, definiced it from them to us, back to our jurisdiction. So we're actually nationalizing our language. Let me say that again. We're actually nationalizing our language. Nationalizing our language. We've reclaimed it already. It's ours. And that's another something that we had not done previously in this lifetime, but we're doing it now. Change the spelling of those words that they taught us in those education camps. Switch it up and give it to me the meaning you want it to have in your lawful affidavit. Just like the word original. Anytime I see any word that has something that makes the sound of gin or gene, I'm going to change it to Gene. Why? Because of our bloodline and birthright. So the word original, they spell it and I'm putting that in the chat, Original. They spell it that way. I like to spell it because we're the only originals there are. There are no others. I like to spell it O-R, and I'll put it in the chat, Original. Because we are the original, because that's what words ending in AL are all about. They took one of the L's off, so we usually just add another one, and we know what that means. We are the original. Our genes, everyone else comes from us, except that which came from a laboratory. That's not natural. So, again, we have to stop. So whenever the Albions or the colonizers say, you can't spell, they're hoping, because that's a spell too that they're attempting to cast, okay? They're attempting to get you to stop changing what they hypothecated. When they say you can't spell, if that spell works on you, you'll go right back to citizen denationalized language if that spell works on you. And they even have our own saying that when they see our documents. Our own will be the first ones to say, oh, I don't want to be a Moor because y'all don't know how to spell. Actually, we don't use colonizers' spellings. We use sovereign spells. So they might say you can't spell. However, we have to get back into the lawful sovereign jurisdiction or diction, same thing, because what we say determines the jurisdiction. We do can't spell competently, sovereignly, and allodially as the heirs should do. So please read the corporate Unam Sanctum, read it, and compare it to the original indigenous sovereign Unam Sanctum that I posted out on the public record. It's in all of the Moorish American Consulate rooms, Facebook pages and social media, etc. And each Moor is encouraged to copy the one that I wrote and autograph it and send it to the policy enforcers in your area so that you proclaim your papal authority, since the corporate pope stepped down because he's not real. He's fake. Always has been, always will be. And he's no longer over the policy enforcers. We are. So you need to let them know competently that you're over them because they know what Unam Sanctum is. That's the policy they've been working under. And absolutely, in the chat, Empress Michelle said culture is in the language. Yes, it is. And let me tell you about language, even that word. In reality, and I'll put this in the chat, for us, just 1 second. Okay, I put it in the chat. Language is really land gauge. That means how you get about and move and travel in the jurisdiction of your ancestral inherited estate is by the language. That's where the right to travel comes from, the land gauge. It tells you where you are as a nation. If we're still using all their corporate language, then we haven't quite risen as high as we can go. But when we switch the spellings and the meanings back to Phoenician ones, which is where phonetics and phonics and phone comes from, all of that, communication, okay, when we switch it back to that, then we can travel more freely on our land. Because we're actually now looking on paper, we look foreign, but really they're foreign. They've just been teaching us that stuff to make us think that that's American, when it's not. What we say American is American, not them. And so we are the original popes. We're the original ancient Romans. R-H-O-M-A-N is how I chose to spell it. You can spell it a different way if you choose to do so, in all lowercase letters, because and we honor all of that. Okay, this is our grand rising back to our ancient land gauge, our ancient culture, our ancient law, our ancient land, our ancient commerce, our ancient natural resources. We are the oldest natural jurisdiction on earth, and we are the most sovereign, because they're really kind of either you're sovereign or you're not. And they are not sovereign. Colonizers are not sovereign. Okay? We are now using our sovereign authority to change the energy that the whole earth needs at this time. That's what all of this is about. It's changing the currency. And currency, in one of the videos that I did last year, I said that all Moorish American nationals are currency controllers. That's actually what you are. Each one of us is a currency controller. A currency controller is not just one who controls the money, but it's also one who controls the energy on the planet. And that's why when our energy is peaceful, our computers and stuff work fine and everything. But if we're having warlike energy, we're really going to kind of, it causes a disruption in our electronics because there's frequencies at play. Frequencies are at play. We are energetic beings. And again, culture is in our language, our language. We need our own language, and we already have it. That's why everyone on earth, every place you go, you can speak English, and that's English with a lowercase e. That's sovereign English, ancient English, and they will know exactly what you mean. They will know exactly what you mean. Because that is the language of the angels, and for the angels, and by the angels. That's why everybody had to know it, because we spoke it, and we speak it. So that is all that I have today with regard to that, but please look at Unam Sanctum, and then go to whatever your area of expertise is or the area of commerce that you want to go in. Do a little research. Find out who it is that's attempting. So, for example, if you wanted to start that business and you were a citizen, who would you go to and quote, unquote, apply, okay, because we don't do any of that. We're not citizens. Apply to in order to get that. And you don't apply to them. You just pull whatever it is, their regulations or whatever, where they say you have to get this certification and that certification, which is just debt. We don't do that. And that's just a suggestion. Again, you can't tell sovereigns what to do. Sovereigns do what they want to do. Okay? But it is suggested that you not go through them, but that you pull down whatever it is that they're saying people need in order to do that, and you give them a sovereign universal affidavit with that same stuff on it, but it's uplifted into sovereign ancient English, and they will know exactly what you mean. All commerce was governed previously by Unam Sanctum policies. And whatever the Pope said to do, that's what everybody did. So we fixed that. As a nation, we fixed it. And now we have to do the same thing with the things that we want to do on our own land so that they know that they don't have any jurisdiction over us or anything. This is actually the competent way to invoke jurisdiction properly, is you do it in writing. Before you do whatever it is that you want to do, you do it in writing. In the chat it says, but isn't lowercase red print in capitis nolo print basically enough? If that's as far as you want to go, then it's enough for you. You're a sovereign. No one can tell you. I mean, think about it. A lot of the stuff we did was in black ink, and we were using capital letters some years ago. And it still did what we told it to do. However, it didn't continue to work because we're being called to rise. That's what the Grand Rising is. The Grand Rising is keep getting better. Keep navigating. Keep navigating. Navigating means that if you need to make an adjustment, make that. You're still going up. Make another adjustment. You're still going up. You learn something new. Make another adjustment. We're still going up. Be flexible in order to do that. We have to be flexible, and that's a suggestion. Again, some signs are fixed signs, and they don't like change. They resist change. Take your time. Do not torture yourself over change. Take your time, and when it's time for you to make the adjustments and to navigate, you will do that. But for those who are, you know, for example, Leo, I'm a Leo. Leos are mission-driven. And whatever the mission takes, I don't care if it means getting dirty hands, breaking nails, all of that, we're going to do it because we're going to reach the goal. And actually, we're already at the goal. We just keep goaling some more, hitting some more, hitting some more. That's you know. And each and every more has some Leo in them because at some point Leo is going to be in your 9th house or your 7th house. And then with us, Sagittarius is going to be in our, you know, in our sun sign, ascending or descending, etc. So we have the ability, because we have so many chakras, we have the ability to transition and change and navigate and move about. And that's what traveling really is. Is you don't turn left and stay at left forever, or else you run into something. You fix, navigate. Okay. So far, so good, Morris. We got it. I mean, it's you know, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. I don't know if you all saw House of Reawakening Minds this past Friday. It was good. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's done. Okay, and it's our time. This is like coming in on the ground floor of the biggest earth-wide transfer of wealth ever. We are getting our estate to come back to us by competent documents, etc. That's what this is. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're doing it document at a time, affidavit after affidavit after affidavit, building and building, because really, and it's happening actually really quickly, because it took them 400 years just to get to here, to trick us with capital letters and do all of this fancy footwork with the capital letters and fool us in the schools and fool us in the churches and all this and that. They had to go, you know how many hoops they had to jump through to fool us? And here we are. The system over there is finished. It's broke down. Finished. Done. Wrapped. Gone. Finished. And now we have to navigate the grand rising, just like the prophet said. And you all of us, we can actually write how all the future heirs are going to do business and do commerce on our land. We have the opportunity to do that right now. We can dictate that competently by taking those corporate trusts and charters out there that fraudulently attempted to look like us and decapitalizing and unhypothecating them. And then when you put that out on the public record in ancient English, in all lowercase letters, with your sovereign signature on it. Come on now, a sovereign? There's none higher. None higher. We get to do that for our heirs and all their friends and all of their heirs. That's where we are right now. We're it, that opportunity. We are, and it's not it because we are who. We are not it. We're not what, we're not which, we're who. So that is all that I have for today. But this is we're in a time period right now where that just we got it. It's a wrap. All we have to do is be willing to put that elbow grease in there and do that. And listen, some of us have, you know, we've had to go into the prison camps and POW camps and do a little bit of time in there, you know. But to me, when I went in there, I learned so much that now it's like I realize I'm the judge, and every other Moor is a judge too. They can't do nothing with that. Sovereign judges and justices and consuls and commercial magnates and titans and giants. That's us. So, you know, I'm good with that. I'm good. I'm ready to, like, you know, more documents written, more things put out there. This week I'm going to be working on SETA KB and decapitalizing that, because there's so much in them. Yes, Empress Michelle, we are the law and we are the government. That's how we do this. So are there any questions or, Empress Michelle, did you want to give your quick testament about what you did and how it's working? And if you're talking, we can't hear you because it's probably on mute. Let me see. If you *6, we can hear you, Empress. She gave us this testament right before we started, and so I thought. Let me see. Let me just make sure. Just a minute. Let me see. Empress Michelle, are you there? Uh-oh. I see that you're saying something, Empress Michelle, but we can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Just
okay,
go ahead and give your quick testament. Whatever you said something earlier.
I'm not sure what you wanted me to speak on.
You gave a testament, I think, at the beginning about your phone. Was that you that gave that testament at the beginning?
Well, it wasn't my phone. It was an annuity, a disability annuity.
Okay.
And it had been for, I had been on medical disability for years. I still had my own medical practice, but I was still receiving an annuity check every month for 20 years maybe. And for the first time, April 1st, I didn't receive one. And when I inquired about it, I found out that their reason was because they claimed that I hadn't filled out a survey. Well, I hadn't filled out a survey in years. I think I may have done 3 in the whole time. And since the last few years, I had never done one. And now that I had this knowledge, I used the information and the knowledge that I had to just let them know I am the creditor. And I also shared it with another sister, the whole letter that I submitted. But I initially sent an email, and for the first couple of days, I didn't hear anything back. And the second time I submitted a letter by email, I just let them know I've given you plenty of detailed information, letting you know who I am, and you have 24 hours to respond favorably. This is your due process notice to me. And that next morning, before I even turned over, my phone was going off. I saw that he had responded by email. And the next day, the check was direct deposited as it had been over the last several years. So that is just to let the other justices know that when we know who we are and we have the knowledge and know how to implement it, then we just make the command.
Hold on for just a minute, Empress. Hold on for just a moment, Empress. Let me deal with that. Go ahead, Empress.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say, you know. And I have not named them yet. I still intend to. However, I still was not without my resources.
Islam. Islam. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Empress Susanna. Okay, I got booted out. So, thank you for that, Empress. I appreciate that information right there. Empress Susanna, did you speak? Because I got booted out and I couldn't hear. Are you there, Empress Susanna? Let me see. Is Empress Susanna?
Yeah, she don't want to listen.
Okay. Let's see. Someone was trying to say something. Who was trying to say something? Empress Susanna, hold for just a moment. There was a Noble who was trying to say something. Go ahead, Noble.
Yes, she had to unmute the line because it wasn't allowing.
Okay. There's a lot of feedback back there, Empress.
Everybody's got to mute their phone if they're not talking.
Okay. Empress Susanna, if you will star 6 to unmute so that you can say what you wanted to say. It's a lot of feedback coming in, but go ahead, Empress.
Okay, Islam. I did the bill pay for the phone for T-Mobile, and my bill was due on April 25th, and I had like a payment plan that I needed to pay, and I hadn't paid it. And I still haven't heard anything from them except for a text they sent me giving me a free iPhone 11.
Islam.
Yeah, and then they said thank you for the bill being paid on time, but I hadn't paid anything.
Islam. You know, we hear that a lot with the no bills due. We probably need to be capitalized, but they're honoring it. We heard that more often. We have to pay time, using fiat. They know that fiat is not worth anything. You might as well go ahead and go with what the heirs say. Thank you, Empress Susanna. I appreciate that. That is good news. More good news for our nation. More good news. And that is why Islam, they were leaned. Yes, Empress Michelle said they were leaned. Listen, they getting it from all sides with the Moors, especially these cell phone companies, etc. No, you're not going to war against the heirs in plain sight and then just, and think that that's okay. Nope, you don't get to do that. So, just a minute, because I'm getting a little bit of feedback. So, you don't get to war, they don't get to war with the heirs and live in big domiciles and things like that. That's our estate, actually. So, they're going to have to give it up. T-Mobile, all of those cell phone companies, they got to give it up. That's our stuff that they're standing and interfering, attempting to escheat our estate. We know there's no, that fiat is not a thing. We know that already. So keep doing the demonstrations more. I yield the floor at this time. Thank you for coming. Things are really, really working out well for us as a nation. We made huge, huge strides. We have to keep working and keep doing what we're doing so that the return of the estate is a continuous process, unencumbered and uninterrupted. The estate is coming back to us in ways that we don't even realize. Even with the attempts to make it look like something different is happening is going on. They're trying to make it look like, all the stores might be empty and no one's going to have anything, blah, blah, blah. Don't believe that. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. We have to keep doing what we're doing. And then the ancestors would never get us out this far and not give us the estate and tell us what to do next and all that. They've been leading us this far with the gold standard and with the sovereign credit instruments, et cetera, that we placed on the public record. But trash is what comes trash. So don't
Yeah, she'll be back shortly.
Sound difficulties.
Okay, peace.
Okay, you should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yep. So a little bit of sound difficulties, but that is basically, we can continue the meeting on next week, and we'll talk some more about how to continue to move into universal commerce. The first couple of steps, though, for the new Moors is indeed to declare your nationality, declare your Moorish American nationality, terminate all corporate contracts, okay? And if you have, there are many examples on the Moorish American Consulate Public Records page on how to do that. Many Moors have done it, and many more are doing it every day. So before you do anything else with regard to commerce, those things need to be done first. Islam and Grand Rising to the Moors.
Islam.
Grand Rising.
Islam. Empire.
Grand Rising, Moors.
Grand Rising. Grand Rising.
Grand Rising.
Islam.
Grand Rising. Peace and love.
Grand Rising. Peace and love.
Grand Rising.
Peace and love.
Islam.
Swampomac Territory, New York Republic.
Islam. Islam.
Peace and love, everybody.
Islam. Peace and love.
Pax Evermore.